It's been a long time since I've revisited this movie. A long time.
It's been 84 years.
I don't think I've seen this movie since like 2012. Maybe the movie came out in 2010. I saw it in theaters. Got the DVD. Never upgraded. Never really saw the need to upgrade. Just don't remember liking this movie. But I thought, you know what? It's been 14 years. You know, the movie came out in 2010. It's 2024. It's been 14 years. So let's revisit it. Is it as bad as we remember? To let you guys know how serious I'm taking this video, like, I got notes, which I don't do for videos like this. Like, I got notes because I wanted to take this seriously. You know, I'm revisiting a movie that is universally hated and just, you know, most people don't like. One of the biggest compliments I can give this movie is its visuals. Visually, this movie is really good. Cinematography is really good. The problem with this movie, the problem with The Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake from 2010, is Freddy.
Here I come.
Freddy does not work in this movie. If this movie was about anything else, if this was the same movie, same cast, same director, same everything, but you took Freddy out and you replaced it with a new serial killer, slasher person, a new ghost, something a little bit more original, it might have worked a little bit better. Maybe. But for me, the biggest issue is Freddy. And I'm going to go through things in this video that I like about the movie and what I don't think works in the movie. And I think the things that don't work are far going to outweigh the things that do work. Because, like I said, this movie's not that good. But it could have been. It had potential. And the first thing I'm going to start with, so I rewatched the DVD. I rewatched the special features. I didn't do the director's commentary because I wasn't going to subject myself to... I don't know, does this have a director's commentary? I don't think... The DVD doesn't, so... Spared myself on that one, though I probably would have got a little bit more information. One of the first things I'm going to talk about is... I feel like the people behind this movie were just a bunch of idiots. I feel like the wrong people made this movie and didn't understand what the movie was. And I'm going to play clips from behind the scenes to kind of put into perspective what I'm saying and why I'm saying it. First, I'm going to start with the writer.
I looked at him as a mystery first to try and figure out where he came from. I found that Freddy had very little in the way of a background and a mythology to him. We knew that the parents had killed him and that the return to the nightmare was a vengeance for that, and that instead of going after the parents, he goes after the children.
In all the other nightmares, you don't really explain why Freddy is actually after these kids.
He said in all the other nightmares, you never know why Freddy's going after the kids. The writer said Freddy doesn't really have a backstory in any of the other movies. Have they seen any of the other movies? Have they seen any of these? Because there's a few of them. I mean, we know Freddy's mom was a nun who got raped.
A young girl on the staff was accidentally locked in here over the holidays. She was raped hundreds of times. When they found her, she was barely alive. And with child.
Freddy.
The bastard son of 100 maniacs.
We have enough backstory with Freddy. So that's why I'm saying I don't think these writers really understood what Freddy was or understand what Freddy is. Personally, like after seeing this, I'm like, especially after seeing that interview, I was like, yeah, this whole movie makes sense now on why it's universally not liked. Another thing they talk about in this behind the scenes is they knew Freddy was not going to be received well with the new design. They knew that going into this.
On some level, you have to just jump off a cliff because fans are going to hate it. Initially, they're going to hate it because it doesn't look like their Freddy Krueger. That's always a difficult decision to make.
He really does justice to Freddy Krueger.
So here's the thing. They kind of contradict themselves because they say, we know people aren't really going to like this, blah, blah, blah. And then they go and say, well, we thought it was a good idea to kind of have him in shadow a lot. Well, to me, yes, as a cinematographer and as a filmmaker, having somebody more in the shadows is scarier. But with somebody as iconic as Freddy, and you completely change his face and his voice, you saying you want to put him more in shadow tells me you are not confident enough in your the new design of Freddy.
What we discovered in testing, and actually as we went through, that really the less light we put on it, the better.
The less light we put on it, the better.
And the less light we put on it from the front, the better it looked. And it was also scarier. It's like the more light we just bring from behind and the more we keep the front in shadows, the scarier he looked.
What he just said was the perfect description of what 1984's Nightmare on Elm Street did. You keep him in shadows. You keep him mysterious. Let me show you the scene from the first one. First time you really see Freddy.
Please, God.
This is God.
Versus the first time you see Freddy in this new one. You're kind of contradicting yourself. So let's move on to Freddy as a character and why he just does not work in this movie at all.
I'm real.
First off, he doesn't have the look. That look is so iconic. That voice is so iconic. And I've seen videos on YouTube of people trying to explain what they need to do to make Freddy better. And I feel like the point they always miss is, it's Robert Englund did such an amazing job. Could you imagine Darth Vader having a different voice? Neither can Disney. Because it just would not work. Or Star Wars fans would riot. That's why they're still using James Earl Jones' voice to this day as Darth Vader. Granted, it's still the same helmet and it's still the same everything, but they didn't change anything. It's still James Earl Jones, Let me give you an example, though. So Robert Englund said he doesn't want to play Freddy anymore. He's too old, and I get it. The makeup is just too this and too that. I totally get that, and I sympathize. And it really is, though, to me, how the character's portrayed. It doesn't matter. I feel like I'm about to contradict myself because I just went on and said he's got a look and a voice. But now I'm thinking of a movie, Jobs versus Steve Jobs. The one Ashton Kutcher played Steve Jobs, and they dressed him to look exactly like how he would look and everything, and it just did not work. It's kind of. And then Michael Fassbender played Steve Jobs and didn't look like him at all. But the movie was 100 times better because of his performance, because he felt more like that character. I think they were trying so hard for this one that they just failed. They wanted to be something original, but at the same time, you can't be that original and then all you're going to do is play the hits. You can't just play the hits and be like, well, we want to make our own thing. Well, if you wanted to make your own thing, you would tell a whole new story, to be honest. Because all the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street did was look like a massive $35 million YouTube fan-made film. It's really all it did at the end of the day.
You know, like no jokes, no nothing. I mean, he's down to business in this movie.
When it comes to Freddy in this movie, as I said, Freddy does not work. This movie works way better without Freddy. Anytime Freddy pops into screen, the movie goes down 10 notches. As soon as he opens his mouth and you hear that deep voice that doesn't feel like the character at all, completely throws you out the movie. It loses you.
Remember me?
And the one thing I really feel that held this actor back, because I have nothing against wrong with the actor at all. The makeup did not help. The makeup was, like, there were points when he would talk and he didn't look like his mouth was moving.
Swallowed, little bird.
It wasn't expressive. Like, Robert Englund is expressive when he talks. This Fred is just like, you know what I'm saying? He's very like one note. Even when he's trying to be cheeky and funny, he's still one note. And it does not work.
It's not really one-liners. It's not really winking your eye and doing this. This is a guy with a razor-sharp glove who wants to just brutally destroy you for what your parents did.
It's not really one-liners. It's not really winking your eye and doing this.
He said it's not about one-liners and not about all that campy stuff that Freddy is famous for. Well, what are these?
Tag, you're it. You really shouldn't fall asleep in class. It's a little fast for me. How about we hang first? How's this for a wet dream?
Those are one-liners. That's Freddy trying to be cheeky. I'm just saying.
When I was looking to recreate Freddy Krueger, I looked at all the things that we knew about him just on the surface and tried to find a deeper mythology or find a deeper reason for why they made him become so iconic. Why the fedora, why the sweater, why the glove?
For me, the iconic symbols of the film are the glove, the hat, the sweater.
I think we would have been crucified if we had not put the sweater, the hat, or the glove in there. I mean, I actually think kids would have gone nuts. Let's not self-implode by changing these iconic elements.
If you get rid of the hat, the glove, and the sweater, I think it's not Freddy Krueger.
The hat, the glove, and the sweater are three things that they felt they really needed to make this movie work. Really?
Really?
Yes, really.
Really? I kind of feel like that's obvious. What, were you going to make a Freddy Krueger originally without the sweater, without the gloves, without the hat?
But, all I'm saying, they're going to get a...
It's like saying, oh, we're going to make a Michael Myers movie, a Halloween movie, but we got to give him the knife, because if he doesn't have the knife, then people aren't going to know it's him.
Are you stupid or something? I'm as stupid as stupid does.
The cast. This is kind of its time, 2010. So the cast is all going to look like CW characters, just really pretty people. You know, it looks like a CW show on steroids. I will say the shining point of this movie is Kate Cassidy. I don't remember her character's name. She plays the blonde friend. This movie was way stronger with her as a character. So the first 30 minutes, we're following her character. We're not following Nancy. We know who Nancy is just because it's like, oh, Nancy, you said her name. It's like, oh, that's the lead character. No. In this movie, we're going to start by following her friend, the blonde friend. And they kind of pull a Psycho on you. You remember at the beginning of Psycho, we're following Janet Leigh until the shower scene, and then the story changes. That's kind of what they did with this one. And as soon as Kate Cassidy dies, within 30 minutes, the movie goes to shit. Even more to shit. Because the movie's not bad in the first 30 minutes. If you completely took Freddy out of the first 30 minutes, or you didn't see his face or hear him talk, I would say the first 30 minutes is really, really good. And Kate Cassidy really holds it. She's gorgeous, for one. And she's I mean, they had her character like crying the whole movie.
What? Oh my god.
You know, like I really never felt any of these people were friends at the same time too. So like they're always sad, they're always moody. It just starts off right away like this. Do you remember in the first one? They were like friends. They're having sleepovers, they're like partying, they're like genuinely friends. And this one, it's all like, you know, it opens up in the diner and just nobody seems to still like each other, but they all know who each other is. So I don't think the characters work. I will say though, a shining part in this is Clancy Brown as the teacher, which or the principal. Is he the principal? He's great in everything. The one thing that I don't like the little emo kid, and I think this. And let's get into the story part now.
I know what happened to Freddy.
The little emo kid does not work for me. For one, the whole him being an athletic swimmer, like that looked kind of weird. So like, is he in PE or is he at practice? Because I've never been to a school where you were forced to do like that kind of like athleticism, you know, like he was like an athlete. But you look at him when he's not in that one scene and he's just a nerdy, like video game stoner, druggy Adderall kid. It just doesn't, like that part doesn't really make sense. I think they just really wanted that underwater scene for some reason and it didn't work. And the whole, like, he had to tell us twice in the movie that Clancy Brown was his dad.
Quentin, get in the car.
It's my dad. I gotta go.
Quentin. You'll be late to class. Come on, buddy. Let's go.
My dad.
I know.
Yeah, we get it. You told us twice. Another problem I have with the story with this one is Nancy never fights back. Ever in this movie. She doesn't fight back. She's running the whole time. At least Nancy in the first one went full like Home Alone on Freddy. And we saw her prepping and you knew she was scared of Freddy, but she was going to do what she had to do. No, it doesn't happen in this movie because Nancy's just scared the whole time. Even in the very last scene, right before she kills Freddy, it had no merit. It just came out of nowhere. Like, oh, you get one punch and boom, you're going to cut his hand off and slit his throat. Nancy just doesn't work the same in this movie. With all that being said, let's go to the kills.
Oh my god. Wake up!
I'll say this is a 50-50. So the first two kills, which happen in the first 30 minutes, are actually dope and kind of brutal. Like the first kid who dies gets his throat slit or slits his own throat. And when you see it, it's like, ooh, that's brutal, man. That is brutal. This movie is very R, mostly for that. And then the second kill with the blonde chick, the way she dies, she's being tossed around the room, just like in the first one and everything. But the way Freddy gets her and just claws her from underneath, that was brutal. That was cool. So that's two kills. Freddy's cool. And then when she dies, the whole movie goes to shit. The third kill in the boiler room was weak. So this movie, I had to do some research on this. And based off the time period, it makes sense. So the last couple kills in this movie they're all 3D gimmicks. So Warner Brothers, who produced this movie, wanted to make a 3D movie. They didn't film it to be 3D, but with the success of Avatar, there was this period where Avatar was so successful. Avatar came out in 2009, was so successful that all these other movies tried to hop on that gimmick train of 3D. They found a way to convert it to be fake 3D, but they would add things in to try to make it 3D. Well, they did that with this movie. And I'm going to say this feels like a studio mandate because it doesn't do this the first half of the movie, and then the second half it does. So the third kill is the hand through the guy, and basically at the camera, the hand goes. I'm like, that's a cheap 3D effect. That's a cheap 3D effect. It didn't look that good. It wasn't that, awe in your face. So, didn't work for me. And then Freddy's death was very underwhelming. Cut his hand off. Didn't even cut his head off, really. Just cut his neck. And then right after that, they do the famous mom, at the very end when they think everything's okay, and then the mom gets pulled. So in the original Nightmare on Elm Street, they kill Freddy. They think they kill Freddy, and then it's the next day. Everybody's back. We realize it's a dream, but the way the movie plays itself is everything's back to normal. The sun's shining, the birds are chirping, they're on their way to school. The mom's, who is an alcoholic, is doing better. And then you see, no, Freddy's not dead. The kids are in the car going away, and the mom gets pulled through the front door window, which in 1984 was really corny. It was like a doll being pulled through, which is kind of funny, and Wes Craven hated that ending. But it was kind of effective. Even though it was cheesy, it was still an interesting thing. Well, they tried to do that in this one with the mom getting pulled through a mirror. But the way the 2010 remake fails is it basically happens 5 seconds after they kill Freddy. It's almost like there's no time to breathe to let you realize things are kind of back to normal. It's like they just go home. The mom takes the daughter home, and 5 seconds later, Freddy's there through the window. She's standing there screaming. Didn't even try to help. She just closes her eyes and screams. And the hand goes through the face and pulls her. And it just looks so bad. Like the 3D blood coming through. It doesn't work. It doesn't, I don't know. It's not there. I've touched on a lot of bad in this movie, which most of this movie is. But I want to talk about the good. There is some good to this, and most of it is the visuals. So, I'm going to mix a little good and bad with this first one. The director. The director is a music video director. So this is his first feature film, his only feature film. He came from doing music videos. He did this feature. Never did another feature again. Now he's like doing the Emmys, but he's like B unit essentially. Like, dude's still working though, but not making movies. But I will say the visual style of this movie is really good. It's really good. Like from the opening scene with the cafe and it's raining and the neon lights, it looks really good. And this movie was shot on film. So it's 2010. Well, when they filmed it was 2009. So the movie's shot on film with anamorphic lenses. It looks great, like visually. Stylish. It's got atmosphere and everything. Like I love the set pieces, and I love the cinematography. I love when you see the lens flares and everything. It all works until Freddy comes in and just ruins the movie. One of my favorite scenes is our visual scenes is basically everything visually that looks good is with Kate Cassidy. I feel like after Kate Cassidy dies, the visuals just really go downhill. I don't know why, but there's a scene where she's in the attic and she's looking around and visually just like it looks really cool. Like the big set, attics, the lens flare with the flashlight, and then Freddy pops in with the jump scare and ruins the whole thing. The scene where she's driving home from I don't know, I think she's driving home from school and she gets out the car and that backlight is just hitting her so beautifully, and then she goes into the garage and you see the light rays coming through. Just atmosphere and style. Like I will say this movie does look better than 90% of the made for Netflix movies out right now, or any modern day movie. Like cinematography wise, it looks better than most of the movies. Even the scene with the parents, it's just one shot though, but I'm like, oh, that's dope. When the parents open the trunk and you got that red light with the blue backlight, like that looks just visually, it looks really good. And as a cinematographer, I look at that like, yeah, I love that. And then I will say my favorite scene in this movie, or no, I'll get to my favorite scene. But one of my favorite things in the original and in this movie is the bloody bag scene. So in the first one, when Nancy sees her friend in the clear bloody bag, her feet get lifted up and she gets dragged away, and then she's standing there and she looks back. That scene in the first movie, amazing. The scene in this movie, amazing. Like when she smiles at the camera, she's scarier than Freddy. Like if they made this movie and had her be like the villain, like coming to haunt and kill the kids for some reason, kind of like a Carrie thing, I think that would have been 100 times better of a movie and more original. Because Freddy just does not work in this movie. But Kate Cassidy does. And especially her all covered in blood and that bag and that evil smile she gives, that's creepy as shit. And it worked really well in the first movie too. The VFX. This was originally going to be my big defender of the movie. Like the original title of this movie was going to be Can I Defend A Nightmare on Elm Street? And then I rewatched it. And then I watched the special features. It's like I'm not going to defend this. I'm not even going to try to defend this. But there was always certain things about this movie because I remember seeing it in theaters. I didn't like the movie, but there were little things that stuck with me, and never really knew what they were. I just always remembered one or two scenes. Bought the DVD, same thing. I'm like, why would I own the DVD if I don't really like this movie? Well, I own all the other Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I gotta own this one, and it all comes back to Kate Cassidy, who's here on the cover. She's on the scene more than Nancy. Nancy's barely in this scene. This is Kate Cassidy's movie. Let's start with the VFX because this was going to be my main contention point. And then I rewatched some of it. I'm like, some of it works, some of it doesn't. I would say the worst offender is the wallpaper scene. In 2010, they went full CGI with this. In 1984, they had to do this shit practically. Now, maybe there was some like special effects where they had to shoot like 2 different plates or something, maybe. Or maybe this was all in camera. I'm going to assume it's all in camera because I've seen this effect done in other movies. You know, with the wall. But they didn't do that. They wanted to do the whole 3D. Like I said, I feel like they really wanted this to be 3D with how they did some of the visual effects. But Freddy coming through the wallpaper just was weak. It wasn't even weak. It was bad. Bad CGI. Wasn't good back then. Hasn't aged very well either. The good. Let's talk about something good in this movie. And this is a scene that has always stuck with me. This is like the one reason I own this movie. Just because I love this scene so much. This one scene. The classroom scene. I think the VFX on this, gold star. Gold star. When she's sitting there in the classroom and she just, and you see her hair go back. Like, it's so good. It is so good. And then 2 seconds later, you see Freddy at the blackboard. Ruins the whole scene. Because as soon as he opens his mouth and starts talking, it ruins it. Like, I really wish they would have explored that more and hid Freddy and made it more like ominous. Like, she got up and she looked around and maybe the whole school was like this creepy, deteriorated thing. Nope, it was like just a quick little sequence. But that visual effect, amazing. Very good. Very good. One of, like, my favorite in the whole movie. There was another VFX scene that I marked as cool, because it's a cool VFX, but it doesn't, like, why is it in there? It's only in here once, in one shot, and it's cool, but why don't you use it throughout in any other point of the film? So when the creepy emo kid is following the little girl in the library, the background does this like shake effect. Like, he doesn't shake, but the background's shaking behind him. And it's really cool. It's kind of like he's having like an anxiety attack or something. But it's only for that one little part, and then they don't use it throughout the rest of the movie anywhere. And it just feels so random. But it's a cool effect. You just, why is it there, and why is it only used in that one little scene with him? I don't know. Oh, and speaking of the library, there's the scene where Freddy turns around. What is that? Like, why didn't you just have him slowly turn and smile or something creepy? You would do this, like, quick jump scare. And the way it looks 2D. Like, it looks like he turned around and they, like, froze the frame for a second. It just doesn't look it doesn't look real. It just looks weird. I don't know. That was just a really bad cut to me. The whole thing. It was very music video edity too, which I get, especially that time period, but it just looked like they did it and then froze frame for like a few seconds because he doesn't show any facial expression. He's paused there. I don't like it. So, this is the other really good one that I love, mostly stylistically. When Nancy goes into her room and it's snowing, that was dope. Just visually, like, that looked amazing. I think that was in the trailer. That in the library, I mean the classroom, two of my favorite moments in the whole movie. I think visually that just is so beautiful. It's just snowing in the bedroom. And then it transitions to like her, like, kind of very Narnia. You know, it's like she comes out the closet and then she is walking into a winter wonderland kind of a thing. I didn't care for that part, but when it's snowing in the room was dope. Another bad one. Like I said, I originally was going to use the VFX to defend this film, and then rewatching it, I can't. Again, I think this was another 3D problem where the parents go to kill Freddy in the flashback, and, you know, he comes running out on fire, and then he's running toward the emo kid, and then they show the close-up of Freddy's face, like, in the fire. Ugh, that CGI just looked really bad. Looked awful. Did not work. Hasn't aged very well. You gotta think, too, this is 14 years ago. But, you know, practical effects from 40 years ago look better. This last VFX has a really good, it goes from really, really good to just bad at the same time. So at the very end, when Freddy's chasing Nancy upstairs in the hallway, in the corridor, and the red carpet turns to blood, that was dope. Like I said, there are 3 visual effects things that are really dope in this movie. The classroom, the snow falling, and this bloodbath hallway. Really dope. Absolutely love that. Until the very end, when they cut to the shot of her falling to the bed, and then the ceiling bursting up and the blood just looked so fake. It just looks so fake. And that was an homage to the original when Johnny Depp died. And they did it for real. Where they really built a set, turned it upside down, and they basically had one take to do that. And it looked absolutely, I think they did it in reverse too, actually. That was dope. This whole CGI blood bubble thing just didn't, I don't know, just it looked awful. And it was coming from such an amazing scene right before with her trapped in the blood and the carpet turning to blood. So in conclusion, what are my final thoughts of the movie? My overall thoughts. It doesn't work. It does not work. The callbacks don't work, I think, the way they wanted them to, just because they didn't do them in creative ways. They just redid some of them shot for shot for fan service. That's why I'm saying I don't feel this movie earned what it wanted to. You know, it looks like a massive budget fan movie. It's really what it does. The characters are a little bit more likable than modern day movies, teen movies, but I think the effects hurt this film the more it ages, and they kind of messed up by killing the best character early. I'm not just saying that as a dude who thinks Kate Cassidy is beautiful, because I do. I mean, she literally spent the whole movie crying, you know, but her character is way more interesting. She's the best actress in the movie. She's the only one who shows emotion. The only time, and I have nothing against Rooney Mara at all. I think she's an amazing actress. But under the right director, like Fincher, the way Fincher used her in the Dragon movie. What's the name of that movie? I'll put it right here because I'm having a brain fart right now. The one with Daniel Craig. She killed it in that movie. She's okay in this, but she doesn't really have that much emotion. Like, the only time she like has emotion is when Freddy's going after her. But she doesn't defend herself. She doesn't fight. Nancy defended herself.
I want my mother and friend again.
What?
I take back every bit of energy I gave you. You're nothing.
The only thing good I can say about this is the cinematographer did his job, and VFX did the special effects did the best that they could. I think VFX, but I don't want to put that on them totally, because I feel like a lot of it was studio mandated for 3D when they didn't plan to shoot in 3D. And there's a thing on Wikipedia that says they wanted it, but nobody else wanted it, so they decided not to do it. It wouldn't have helped the movie. But, I mean, the movie was the second highest grossing remake ever of that time period back then. It made like $100 and something million off a $35 million budget. The problem was nobody liked the movie. The critic and audience response was just awful. So, being 14 years later, would I recommend this movie? If you've never seen any of the original Nightmare on Elm Street, sure, maybe. If this comes to 4K, will I get it? That's a hard question. Like honest to God, that is a hard question. Because as a filmmaker and a cinematographer, I think it looks beautiful. And I think this on 4K would look beautiful. But 4K doesn't always fix a bad film. Just because a movie's on 4K does not make it a great movie. But I feel like this one has a certain amount of style on it to where it could enhance it. But I don't know. I watched this DVD. The DVD looks great. I have no need to get a Blu-ray of this, if that tells you anything. Like, I'm not going to update this to Blu-ray. Unless if I can find this Blu-ray for 99 cents or $1.99, I'll go max $1.99. I'll upgrade to Blu-ray. But if it comes to 4K, depending on the specs, I'd really have to consider it. Just from a visual standpoint. But what do you guys think? Is this movie complete trash to you? How would you rate this movie? I know what everybody's going to say. This movie's shit. This movie should not have been made. And I agree with you. As I said 100 times in this video, I feel like Freddy is a worse part of this movie. And that sucks. Like, if this movie was anything else, any other villain, just name it something else, I think it would have been kind of dope. But I also feel it's a product of its time. 2010, Avatar with the 3D. You have My Killer Valentine in 3D looks better than this, too. I'm just saying. So, I'm going to leave it up to y'all. What do y'all think? Have y'all seen the remake? Most of my audience is like older, so I'm pretty sure most of y'all have. But if you haven't, I'm on the fence. I don't know if I would recommend this to anybody. Like, I wouldn't recommend it. Only person I would recommend this to is if you are a filmmaker, or if you are a cinematographer, or if you are in the field. I would be like, yeah, check it out for these specific elements. Look at how they shot this. Look at how they lit this. Use this for reference. That's the only way. Ignore Freddy Krueger. But that is sad when I have to say the movie works if you take Freddy out. Watch the movie. And anytime Freddy comes on, mute. Because as soon as he opens his mouth, you're lost. Those are just my thoughts on the 2010 Nightmare on Elm Street again. What do y'all think?